Welcome guys, we've had the Spanish Grand Prix and well, what a race it turned out to be in the end. We got overtakes right at the beginning and we got a safety car right at the end and it bunched everything up, and we got Max Verstappen brilliant at one stage with the 3-stop strategy, and then he just exploded internally, I think, as did Red Bull. Let's get straight to it. Firstly, before we get into the race, Lando Norris had to withdraw from the race. He got pain in his wrist at the end of qualifying. Explains why he didn't go into the weighbridge at the end of qualifying. Walk straight. I think he knew the writing was on the wall. Pain in his wrist radiates from the crash he had cycling back in 23. The pain reoccurring. He's had an operation, and that may mean he now misses his home race at the Canadian Grand Prix. So watch out on that one. We might see a new person in that Aston Martin seat, something that a lot of Aston fans have probably been crying out for, because Stroll has been a bit hit and miss, and will be exciting to see what someone like Felipe Drugovich, who can finally maybe get in a race seat for the next weekend. So watch out for that one. But let's get straight to the start. And it was a brilliant start from the main man, Nico Hülkenberg. Made up 4 places right at the start. A brilliant start from him. Got himself up into P10 by lap 2 with a brilliant move on Fernando Alonso. And you thought, oof, this Haas guy can be... The Sauber guy could be going places. It was a brilliant start from him, and it was just summed up how his race continued from there. An absolutely tremendous job. At the front, though, it was Lando Norris. Bottled it again, can we say? I mean, another race start where we just had to hold position, and we would have got that fight between Piastri and Lando Norris, but he's kind of let Piastri off the hook a little bit. He had to wear his tyres down, trying to get back up, and he finally caught and passed Max Verstappen. And from there on, though, I think Oscar managed that race absolutely brilliantly. It was a really bad start from the Mercedes of George Russell. I mean, it looked like he actually got a decent start, but then he was up on the inside, and that sort of blocked himself with the Verstappen and Norris fight up ahead, and Lewis Hamilton with a brilliant move round the outside of him from there. Charles Leclerc with a great move on Antonelli. Antonelli then lost it a bit on turn 2, went wide. And then Charles Leclerc also nabbed George Russell. It was a brilliant start for the 2 Ferrari guys. And then we seen Lewis Hamilton really struggle by lap 10. Summed up his race really from there onwards. He was always on the back foot. Charles Leclerc was flying. Luckily, team orders came into place at Ferrari this time, and they optimised, and it worked brilliantly well for Charles Leclerc in the end. He didn't waste too much time fighting with Lewis, and he was always there or thereabouts. I mean, the podium did look out of question, but for that safety car, I think they probably wouldn't have got that. But, you know, you make your own luck sometimes. And then we got in the middle part of the race where we thought different strategies, and that's what I personally really like about 2-stop races, is where we do get this mix of strategies. Verstappen and Red Bull looked like they pulled a trick and could have potentially got close to nicking that second place of the McLaren of Lando Norris. I was one particular thinking, this is a great move, really race. He went for the 3-stop, nearly pulled it off. I mean, he was half a second behind Lando Norris at the end, which was absolutely fantastic viewing. It didn't help with the blue flags and the cars coming in front of him. That's sort of where Max Verstappen's race sort of started to crumble from there onwards. Oscar, though, up front was just comfortable, happy, laughing his way to the bank with this one. A really brilliant controlled race win from him. In behind, though, Liam Lawson was touching wheels with everybody. First touch with Alex Albon, who'd already had a really bad start, dropped way back, got wing damage. And then he had an incident with Lawson, and that was all she wrote for Alex Albon, unfortunately, after that one. And then he had the great battle with Ollie Behrman in the fight, touching wheels, a massive dive bomb from Lawson. I'm surprised he didn't pick up a penalty for that one. And then we got the move, Max Verstappen on Charles Leclerc, and you thought that was Verstappen wrapped up into that 3rd place. Ferrari didn't look anywhere. Hamilton got passed by Kimi Antonelli because he had a slow stop, and then eventually made his way past him. And then we got the Behrman, Alonso, Liam Lawson, a great battle towards the end. And then we were hotting up to see what would happen elsewhere at the front, but it looked pretty settled until that safety car came in. And then the Red Bull basically imploded. Unfortunately for Verstappen, he only had the hard tyres to remain on. He used up all his allocation basically with that 3-stop strategy, and he only had the hard tyres under the safety cars. Fresh tyres he could change onto. Everybody else around him went onto the softs. And it just looked like he was a sitting duck. And then at the restart, he got a horrible slide coming out of that final corner down the straight. We got Charles Leclerc and right up alongside Max Verstappen, the two touching as they went alongside each other. They're both sort of trying to crowd each other to the part of the circuit that suits them best. Verstappen wanted Leclerc over on the marbles. Leclerc wanted a bit of the slipstream up ahead of him and the guys in front. And then they touched, and then we got the dive bomb of, it wasn't really a dive bomb, it was an attempt at an overtake from George Russell. Got himself up alongside, earned the space, made a mistake, he bumped into the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, and that's where the mistake really, or the red mist and the lion of Max Verstappen came out, because wrongly the team ordered him to give that place back to Russell. We now know that the steward said that they wouldn't have investigated that, and there would have been no penalty for Russell, and there was no need for him to give that place back. Max was right on that one. It was a wrong call from the team. It looked like it was an internal decision from the team rather than something that came from the FIA, because if it was something that came from the FIA, the Red Bull will be throwing everything at them, wouldn't they, if they just suddenly decide afterwards that we weren't going to do anything anyway, but yet told them in the race to change position. So it looked like a completely internal Red Bull choice to do that, and it backfired. I mean, Max Verstappen clearly wasn't very happy at all with that, and then it was just ridiculous actually that he dive bombed, or was he just trying to prove a point that, look, this is exactly what I did, or Russell did to me, and I'm going to do it back to him. Watch, I'll get a penalty. It was that kind of point to prove. I kind of think so, because that's the way Max Verstappen is. He is very tit for tat, whether you like it or not. He's a 4-time world champion, and they all great champions kind of have this sort of spice in them, don't they, really? So yeah, I can see where that came from, like it or not. It's kind of the makeup of Max Verstappen. We've seen him do this numerous times now, and it is what it is. It was really his own team to blame for that, really, because it was the bad call for him to say let George pass that caused the whole end of the race, which it did. The dive bomb was, yeah, ridiculous. Luckily, it was only a 10-second penalty, but it meant he finished 10th, where he would only have finished 4th had he just, you know, potentially even 3rd still, because he had the pace and he was catching Charles Leclerc, who really struggled on the softs towards the end, and it looked like he might have even pulled that off, but that 10-second penalty was just like, you know, that was pretty much the end of it from there. And Charles Leclerc come home with a fantastic P3 in the end. So we finished with Oscar Piastri up front, Lando Norris in second. I think that was pretty much all Lando Norris could throw at it once we looked at he'd lost his tyres and time to try and use up them tyres to, you know, pass Verstappen, and he just couldn't do it even in the second stint. So I think Oscar had his number this weekend. Lando, I thought probably do better, especially off the high of Monaco. Didn't really quite come along. Charles Leclerc with a quite brilliant P3. That's way more than they could have hoped for. I mean, it looked like P4 was on the cards for them anyway, but one better. A brilliant job for Charles Leclerc. He said he suffered in qualifying for the race, kept that fresh medium back at the end, and it was the softs that did it for him, wasn't it? And that safety car. George Russell finished in 4th in the end, a really decent job from him. And the star man for me, Nico Hülkenberg in P5, and I'll get to him when I get to the 3 good and the 3 bad. Lewis Hamilton finished in 6th in the end. Isaac Hadjar, a brilliant P7. Pierre Gasly, you've got to give a shout out to him, because it didn't look like he'd be finishing in the top 10 at parts of this race, and it came to him in the end with a P8. Really good job from him. Fernando Alonso finally scores some points for the Aston Martin. 2 points with a P9. Absolutely brilliant way to get his season off to a start in his home race. And Max Verstappen then rounded out the top 10. Let's get to the 3 good and the 3 bad, and there's no doubt about where to start with this one. It's got to be Nico Hülkenberg with a P16 to P5 finish in the end. Absolutely incredible drive from him. His start really made that up with 4 places on lap 1, made up the pass on Fernando Alonso on lap P2, and then after the first round of pit stop, they called the strategy right. It was up to P9, and it looked like he'd sort of finished there. And then in the end, when he went onto them softs, he was absolutely flying. He even got the pass on Lewis Hamilton down the straight into turn 1. Their car was quick down the start-finish straight, and it worked out perfectly for them and for him. A fantastic job. Must feel like a win in that Sauber to pull off massive points haul like that this weekend. An absolutely incredible job from them. Gets them right back up in that fight in the constructors, doesn't it? I mean, this is kind of what it takes. One big result and you're right there, especially for these guys at the bottom. He absolutely maximised everything this weekend. It was a big package upgrade for them, and it clearly shows it worked. I mean, even Gabby Bortoleto was fighting in P10, P11 at one point, so points, potentially double points finished for them on the card. Not quite for Gabby, but a brilliant job from Nico Hülkenberg, and great to see Sauber with the upgrades that actually worked, and let's see what they can do on from here on in. Second of the three good, I'm going to go for the race winner because he was flawless. Oscar Piastri, lights to flag victory. He had it all under the wraps. A brilliant qualifying, bounce back, and where you thought, Norris after his Monaco win, might have that high. He sort of just damped that straight out and said, I'm the man here, and he was quick all weekend at a proper driver's circuit. It was an absolutely phenomenal job from him. Third of the three good, I'm going for Charles Leclerc because I don't think this guy or this car would have been expected to be on the podium, and he absolutely maximised everything. His race pace was absolutely brilliant. He managed to pull off what we saw in free practice, where it looked like the Ferraris were very touch and go with the Red Bulls when it came to race pace. They weren't quite that sort of close when it comes to the race, but brilliant strategy, and the right tyres at the end that they saved for him really helped him, and that got him into that P3 and beats Max Verstappen. Onto the three bad, not surprising here really. I'm going to go for Max Verstappen, and it sounds really harsh, but he just lost his head in the end because he could have brought it home in P4, but it was just a combination of issues that just really got to him, didn't they? Just the hard tyres to start with when the safety cars came out didn't help, but it was the only tyre that he had to go on, and then he had the straight down incident with Charles Leclerc, where he thought, Charles Leclerc should give him the place back. Immediately at turn 1, as we get to that first lap after the safety car restart, I mean, he got the George Russell incident and clash. He felt he was within the right, and rightly so, to keep that position. Wrong team call, and that infuriated him, and that just caused the explosion. He did to Russell what he felt Russell did to him, and I think he was just trying to prove a point that, look, Russell won't get a penalty, but I will. It's me against the world, whole sort of thing with Max Verstappen that we've seen before. I think it was just a wrong way to go about that at the end, and it ultimately cost him because he finished down in P10 with a 10-second penalty in the end. It looked like despite that 10-second penalty, though, they were still investigating Max Verstappen for that incident, and thankfully nothing's come from that. I think once you've given that penalty, I think that should really be it and wrapped up. But Max Verstappen drops down now, about 39 points behind the leader in the championship. I think after this weekend he looked really disheartened because despite all this big talk about the technical directive changing things at the front, McLaren looked like they were a step further ahead of everybody else, and it was really backfired on them. And even Lewis Hamilton calling it a big waste of money. Nothing's changed. Everything is kind of running as they were before that. So that technical directive didn't really affect anybody in terms of moving positions. We can potentially might point at Sauber, but they bought a massive upgrade package which clearly worked. It might have some impact on how good they've moved forward on that point, but that was probably about it. On to the second of the three bad, I'm going for Liam Lawson. He was bumping and scraping all along that race, and despite points being on, he finished just outside of them, didn't pit, and I think that cost him in the end because it looked like he could have held on for P10. It wasn't to be, in some massive, huge dive bombs. And we've seen this with his racecraft. We've seen him be aggressive, but he seems to be a bit too aggressive, where he's causing himself I don't know how he didn't get a penalty for that one, and he probably should have. in all fairness, because it was a huge dive bomb on Ollie Bearman. But I think just because of what happened the couple of laps before that, and the context of things, I think he felt a bit hard done by Bearman, sort of going around the escape route of turn one, holding that position. But yeah, you can't do that sort of stuff. And Lawson has shown that his racecraft isn't just quite there yet. It's good to be aggressive, but you need to be like Max Verstappen aggressive, where you very clean and on the edge, but on the right side of that edge. Lawson just falling foul of that so far, and he did so this race as well. And the third of the three bad, I'm going for the Haas team. I did say they're going to have a bad race weekend, and to finish P17 and 16, why they didn't pit Ocon when he was on 13 lap mediums under the safety car. He had absolutely no chance, and he only moved up into P13 despite that, so staying on them, it didn't really make any sense to me. I mean, he was up into P11, sorry, but still 15 laps mediums, he had just absolutely no chance, and it wasn't like he was going to gain places up. He was just looking back behind over his shoulders, so a chance of putting him on softs and giving him a fighting chance was probably the right way to go. Ollie Bearman tried his hardest, was in a battle all race long, fought, but that car was absolutely nowhere and finished plumb last in the end. But yeah, there we have it. What a race it turned out to be, the Spanish Grand Prix, the last of the triple header. We go to the Canadian Grand Prix next. Watch out for my race or driver ratings video. It's going to come later this week. As you can see with the new setting, I'm away, but I was determined to bring you this race review. That will come later towards the end of next week, early the week after, just before the Canadian Grand Prix, when I'm back. And yeah, off to Canada. I absolutely love that circuit. It always produces brilliant racing. You've got overtaking opportunities. It's a great place to go, and it's Canada next in the 2 weeks. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. As always, see you in the next one.